Hey, Nerd Herd, Dynasty Nerds here, back again, finishing up our rookie wide receiver breakdowns. We're going to got a lot of wide receivers that are talented to talk about this week, starting off with the big Drake London.
Sky's the limit.
And a guy from Boise you don't like enough.
Shakira.
Garrett loves him. Find out why right now.
Ready, set, hut, hut. Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Rich Dotson, and my fellow nerds, Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
Garrett Price.
How's it going?
And on the board, Jared Weckerly.
What up?
And we're here back talking rookie wide receivers. This is our third episode, breaking down the rookie wide receivers. If you didn't catch the first two, go back and listen. And we have one more show after this for the Nerd Herd to wrap up our rookie wide receivers. We'll be back next week talking quarterbacks and tight ends, and that will be our rookie breakdowns. And I think that gives us enough time to do a show before the NFL draft.
Yeah, so we'll have one extra show in between. So we could do mock draft. We can maybe a couple guys we missed that we liked.
Maybe a mock draft.
Or maybe a mock
Maybe
draft.
maybe like for this show we do like the cover of the first round, talk about where we like them, and then for the second show do a second round.
We can do our pre-draft ranks at all?
I mean, we could, yeah. I mean, I put them on Twitter for my wide receivers today. Every time I got done with all my film study, like I put on my running backs and I put on my wide receivers today. So yeah, we can do that. How about this? Next week we'll discuss our
Quarterbacks and tight ends next week.
and then after that we'll each submit our top 12 each in an Excel sheet, and we'll kind of break it down that way. And then in the Nerd Herd show, we'll do a mock draft. So if you're not a Nerd Herd member, you missed a pre-mock draft prematurely. Don't do that. Don't do that. Nobody likes it. Nobody does at all. Trust me.
Hold out.
I'm living proof. So before we get into today's show, we got to talk about our friends at Prize Picks. And if you're like, hey, what is Prize Picks? And you're like, hey, in my state, I might not even be able to get up on the Prize Picks. But if you can, let me tell you about our friends. Because if you live in Arizona, they just got Prize Picks legal there.
Nice.
Ohio's coming soon. Every other month, there's a new state that's becoming legally able to gamble. So right now, Prize Picks, what is Prize Picks? It's the best way for you to go make prop bets and make legal bets. Like what kind of bets am I talking about? Future bets in the NFL right now. Now, of course, if like you like golf, you like basketball, you like baseball, you like MMA, WNBA, NBA, or any other kind of consonants in order, then we can give you prop bets on them. Like right now for a future bet for me that I like right now, they have Joe Mixon on there for 1,125.5 yards for the season. I love the over. I mean, Joe Mixon's got no competition. He's a true 3-down running back. He just got paid. They drastically upgraded that offensive line. Drastically. Now with Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, they just signed Hayden Hurst at tight end. Like, it's going to be really hard to stuff the box, but definitely with Joe Mixon there. So I think that's an easy, in 17 games, that's an easy smash the box, right? Like, you could do that on Prize Picks. So you take the over.
Smash that box.
It's going to be tough to stuff the box. But
Yeah.
You love stuff in the box.
Yeah, can't help myself. And right now, like if you make that bet, like right now there's plenty of over bets on there and prop bets get on there. But if you make an NFL futures bet, it's got to be NFL futures bet because we talk NFL here. And you go on there, all you got to do is make a $10 bet. We will enter you into a pool to have your team audited. That's right.
Ooh.
If you see our audit show on YouTube,
People have been asking.
people send in their teams and we break them down and try to either get you over the hump, help you rebuild, or win that title.
I get
That's the
2
hump.
or 3 people a day asking me, like, how can I get my team audited?
Well, here you go.
Like every day.
Tell them to listen to this podcast.
Listen to the podcast.
So all you have to do is take a screenshot that you use that you made a futures bet. Send us your email.
You have to use the promo code NERDS. Some
Yes.
of you have been sending me screenshots or DMing them to our Twitter and did not use our promo code NERDS, and it's not going to qualify you. Sorry.
Does not qualify.
But
Sorry.
you could always sign up with a new account
Yes.
and
You
then
can.
do that.
All you need is another email. You re-sign up, use our promo code, screenshot it to us, and this is what we're going to do for all the way up into the football season. If you screenshot us that you did that, you're going to be put into a lottery. Once a month, maybe once every 3 weeks, we're going to do a team show audit. And then if you're not chosen, you will stay in that lottery until we keep going. So
Yep.
you still have a
Forever.
chance for the next 6 months or so. to get your team audited. We'll just keep you in there until once you're done, you're done. So if you want to get your team audited, go to Prize Picks, use the promo code NERDS, make your futures bet, let us know. If you don't have Twitter, you can always email Jared at dynastynerds.com. That's Jared. So Jared. And you can get in there and we'll hook you up.
How is that not your name when you were doing music, Jared?
What?
John Red.
Yeah, damn.
Now remember too,
You missed out.
Yeah.
John Red.
also, when you make a deposit and use that promo code, they'll
Flow
also give you
Rider.
$100 for free if you deposit up $100 for free. So you get on top of that, you get your team audited. You could get some free stuff, all kinds of good stuff over there at Prize Picks. So check them out. And also, we're running a promo right now. As we talk about these rookies, you want to get our Dynasty Nerds film room, get all our tools. We had a big meeting the other day by the Dynasty GM. 2.0 is coming out here in the next couple months. By the time the Expo comes out, it's going to be succulent. And if you use the promo code ROOKIE right now, ROOKIE, you get 15% off all Dynasty Nerds access.
That's
right.
Not Wookiee.
No.
Not to be confused with.
No, this is not
That
Star
could be
Wars. This is
confusing.
Dynasty Nerds podcast.
Right.
Yeah, you're off the rails today. Look at you.
Rookie.
I could easily turn this into the Stranger Things podcast.
Oh.
After that thing that came out today,
By the
look
way,
really
I've
good.
been rewatching
I'm about
season
to do
3.
that.
Yeah, I'm in the midst of it right now.
Well, you have to remember what happened because it was 2.5
It was
years ago
forever
when the
ago.
show's out. These kids are like full blown adults now. They're like, oh, I'm upside down, but before I go, let me shave my mustache. You're like, okay, kid.
did you pay the mortgage before we left?
So enough of all that fun stuff. Use that promo code ROOKIE. Check out Prize Picks. Let's get into our rookie wide receivers. We have a lot to cover here. Let me get caught up from all these last week wide receivers.
It's been a while since you did a sound effect.
Sorry.
Who we starting with today? Who's on the list?
Injuries.
Oh, here we go. Wait, are we starting with Drake?
Jameson.
Are we starting with Drake London?
It was either
Yes.
Drake or Jameson. I don't
Drake.
remember which shows which.
It's
Drake.
Drake.
I've watched so much film over the last month and a half. Like, I don't know what's going on and where. But I got a lot of notes.
Yes.
A lot. So let's start off with a big time name and a big time player. And that's Drake London, 6'4", 219 pounds, out of USC, wide receiver. What's really nice is he'll be super young by the time the NFL season kicks off. He'll be 21 years old in 1 month at kickoff of the NFL season. So that's fantastic. Somebody who didn't obviously compete at the combine because they broke their ankle week 8 of the college football season. And you're like, oh, week 8. Those numbers must be kind of just okay because of 8 weeks of production. I mean, what can you get out of there? Whoa. 88 receptions, 1,084 yards, and 7 touchdowns.
Did they have anyone else to throw the ball to, or was it just him?
They did force feed it to him. I don't know if you saw that Notre Dame game. They force fed him the ball.
No,
Yeah,
some of the receptions here are ridiculous. The amount of receptions per game.
Yeah,
12, 4, 13, 10, 9,
was a
16,
shoo-in.
15, 9.
He was a shoo-in for the Belinda cough before he broke his ankle. Like, it was his.
Yeah, he was just having a dominant year. And this is somebody who, which is an interesting note about Drake London, too. For his first 2 years, 567 yards, 502 yards. Played in the slot 96% of the time those first 2 seasons. Last year, they lined him up outside on 85% of those numbers, and then he exploded, which is really nice.
Yeah, and most of it was like on the left-hand side of the formation. It was always there. Like it was
Prototypical X.
totally easy tape to watch. You knew exactly where to look, even without the little circling the guy. You're like, oh, there he is. There
Plus
he
he's
is.
6'5".
There he is.
6'4".
That helps.
It does help.
2-sport athlete, highly recruited basketball player coming out of high school as well. Actually did play a little bit of basketball, 2 games for the Trojans before he just fully committed to football. Again, this is a guy who put up like video game numbers, right? Like he was just unbelievable. A contested catch machine. And not only that, when he got the ball in his hands, like he was dangerous. He broke 22 tackles after the catch last year. Big arms, 33-inch arms. A guy who doesn't create a lot of separation on those short and intermediate routes, but his size is what gets it done, right? Like you're going to see this comp a lot, and sometimes you see like a comp too much, like, oh, that's just an easy comp. But I think this one fits perfectly. Mike Evans.
Right.
Like he is Mike Evans.
That's what it reminds me of, obviously, watching him. He's not a guy that's, he doesn't run like this crazy route tree. Like he's got, I would call it limited amount of routes that he runs. He goes a go route and a post and an in-cutting route. He's really good at snapping off comeback routes. That was like the one route that really stuck out as something that looked NFL ready. I think some of the other ones he's going to have to do some work on. But you said he's, after the catch, he's a one-dimensional after the catch guy. He's going to try to run you over and maybe get an edge or something like that. He's not going to make anyone miss. I mean, at 6'4", almost 220 pounds. You wouldn't expect him to, but I just want to make sure we're painting the right picture of this guy. He is a kind of he turns into like a bulldozer type of guy, just trying to get whatever he can there.
I thought he offered enough wiggle in the game to like.
I agree.
I thought he had enough wiggle
agree
like
with
after the
Rich
catch. You know what I mean? Like I don't think he's just a bulldozer. I think I saw. I mean, I see where you're coming from. Or like, there's a lot of moments where he'll just slow into it. But I think for his size in college, like there's some situations like, oh, dude, I'm just gonna run that dude over. But I saw plenty of times that in some big games where he had enough wiggle to kind of like get through. Definitely on those quick slants out into the middle of the
I'm
field.
specifically thinking of like stuff where he's getting like a bubble screen or something like that. Like he's never going to make a guy miss. He can beat you to like a spot maybe if they're blocking set up right.
Well, I think the problem with those bubble screens is like he has that kind of speed where it's like that build up speed, right? Like
he's not very sudden.
Yeah, so for him to get out of his breaks, like I don't envision him.
I guess that's what I'm trying.
That's a Traylon Burks kind of player.
That's what I'm trying to paint. Like he's not a very sudden person in the open field or in any of his routes really.
The good thing about him, though, is like in this day and age, is a player like that, again, like Mike Evans, they can win. And what I feel is when people are going to slam on for like things like that is Mike Evans, for example, is one of the most underrated dynasty assets for the last 3 to 4 years, right? Like
easily.
You were able to buy Mike Evans for first round picks, which made no sense. I mean, this guy's a habitual wide receiver one. You know, we talk about all the time, like there's only a handful of wide receiver ones, 12 to be exact. And Mike Evans does it year in, year out, produces at a high level with Jameis. Obviously, you say, oh, well, he's Tom Brady. Okay, well, yeah, Jameis Winston too. They throw the football. So to me, Drake London's somebody in today's NFL, definitely in a right system where it's a pass first team. Like I'm really interested to see where he's going to go. I think him and Elijah Moore would complement themselves pretty good there in New York. So for me, and he'd help out Zach Wilson. I think Drake London offers like mid-range to high-end wide receiver 2 upside, like continually. Like he offers that. I mean, you talked about, I thought he has enough wiggle for me personally. I agree. The speed up, he has to rev up his like action there. Kind of hurts a little bit. I have in my notes too, mostly played on the left side of the field was kind of an issue. Only 22 career games is somewhat of an issue. He had some concentration drops, but like I can live with that. But
I definitely made a note that I saw enough balls either juggled or hit the ground that it wasn't a huge concern because I don't think he has hands issues, but he did have concentration issues that I wanted to note.
Correctable. And I noted those on my notes here. But I mean, for me, Garrett, like this is a player that if his biggest knock is really just going to be that speed and like agility aspect of it, watching the tape, this guy can win. He did it he did not year in, year out, but he did it last year nonstop. Like you said, he's on a clear path to win the Biletnikoff Award. So for me, he falls right into that second tier of I love Garrett Wilson. Like we all talked about, he's our wide receiver 1. Right. But after him, Jameson Williams, Traylon Burks, Drake London. Like I have those guys pretty close for me. Where if anybody took any of them, like I don't hear anybody come to me like, oh, you have Drake London at 4. Like, all right, well, move him to 2 if that makes you happy. I mean, he seems pretty safe. Yeah. Jameson Williams offers the highest upside of all these guys. Like Jameson Williams is the upside guy. We're going to talk about him in the next show and break him down, but he's a huge upside guy. Traylon Burks is a huge upside guy. I think Drake London's a really safe guy.
Mm-hmm. No, I was pleasantly surprised with Drake London because I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about him when I first started watching because I've been snake bitten a couple times by guys that are more traditionally just these contested catch guys. And what I came to find, because I knew I wasn't going to see a lot of speed, and we obviously didn't see that. I don't think he's going to run when he does his pro day, which I don't believe he's had yet, right?
He had to postpone it.
Postpone it for like 2 weeks.
A hamstring popped up after the ankle finally healed.
So my guess is like if he ran like a 4.58, I'd be thrilled. I think he's going to probably run in the 4.6s if I had to guess, based on what I've seen. But at a guy of his size and his athletic ability, I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with that. And in fact, I actually thought he separated a lot better than he's gotten credit for on Twitter and other places. Like that's the one big thing that I've heard over and over again is like, watch out for these contested catch guys. They can't separate, blah, blah, blah. I actually thought he was good enough off the line. I thought he was very good off the line, and he's good enough in his routes, and there's enough suddenness in his game that there were times that he won with separation as well, not just on contested catches alone. And Matt, I don't know if I'm saying it exactly the way you were thinking it, but I agree that I don't think they did him any favors when they were giving him those screens. Like that's not his game.
At all.
I don't think they did him any favors. They were just trying to get their best player the ball.
I think so.
And sometimes Slovis or whoever was playing quarterback at the time just wasn't able to get him the ball. So let's just make sure we get him the ball. But I don't think they did him any favors by doing that. But getting the ball down the field to a guy like Drake London, we're talking about a potential double-digit touchdown guy, which is really where he's going to really blossom at the next level. But you're right, a younger quarterback that needs that safety blanket of a big catch radius guy that just, I need to get it out of my hand. I'm going to chuck it up. He's a great wide receiver for that. Currently have him as my wide receiver 2, but it is very, very close between him and Jamison Williams, only 0.25 of a point difference.
And it just, and I'm sure the NFL draft, like these guys are close enough. The NFL draft, if you want to let it dictate a little bit on them, like to me, I'm okay because they're in the same tier. And that's where I let certain things kind of give a bump to a certain player. Like if Treylon Burks ends up in Green Bay, and say Drake London goes top 10, he goes to the Jets, and then Jamison Williams ends up on, I don't know, Atlanta. That kind of that gets you thinking, like, wow, number one potential receiver as a rookie in Green Bay. Jamison, Drake London and Jets with Zach Wilson. They do got Elijah Moore, who I love. Like that can help dictate a little bit where we're going. But they're all. I'm with you. Like you say, half a point. I don't do the nerd score like that. So to me, they're very close.
That's very close. Yep.
Tier is the best way. Jared, you got anything you want to add on Drake London?
Yeah, that's how I have him too. So I think we're all kind of in the similar boat. I got Garrett Wilson about a 78.5. Then I have JMO, Treylon Burks, and Drake London all with a 77, and then split up by decimal points. So they're all lumped in a tier together. So I think draft capital will play a big role. What quarterback do they land with? But no, I you guys pretty much hit on everything with Drake London. I think he's a little underrated as an athlete just because he's not, overly fast. But I think he does have some suddenness in his game that I saw after the catch. He's an absolute beast to tackle. I love his mentality that you see on the field. Like he likes contact. Like he likes it.
I saw that at times, and we talked about this before the shows, but I wanted to at least mention it. But there were other times where I saw smaller defensive backs, not necessarily during a catch, but when he was doing some other things in his game, blocking and so forth, and he's just getting tossed around, and it just something in there just didn't compute with me. Like maybe he's not trying his hardest when he doesn't have the ball in his hands, whatever. I mean, that's fine. Some guys just kind of get in the way, and that's their style of blocking. But I mean, I literally saw him get thrown to the side. I'm sure you guys saw that as well on a play where I was just kind of like, I was kind of taken aback by that.
Did you see I believe it was the Arizona game where him and the DB kept getting into it.
And the DB tossed him.
Yeah, but he came back later.
Right.
He came back later.
It's just enough that I'm like, what like, are you physical or not? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I watched like 8 games. I don't remember that specific
To
play,
be
but
the same
it could
fair,
happen
we
to
had the
anybody.
same opinion kind of about Jamar Chase. Like, he plays a little soft at times.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you get tossed on the football field, and I think the
worked out
majority
okay.
of the time when I was watching his tape, like he was aggressive in the open field and trying to break tackles. And
with the ball in his hands, he is. He absolutely is.
I thought he had good hand technique at the line of scrimmage. Got off his with his releases very well. And then obviously, I mean, he's a contested catch freak. I think Garrett had a great point. I think he's going to be a really good red zone threat at the next level, which will translate to fantasy football points. So I like Drake London. He's definitely in my tier 2 if you want to put Garrett Wilson in his own tier 1.
Which is safe. So, but I think we've established for this class, we all feel pretty good about the top 4 receivers are Garrett Wilson, which is a clear one, and then any way you want to take it. And I know excluding Treylon Burks for Matt, but Treylon Burks and you, okay?
He's my
Matt,
wide receiver.
Where'd you have Drake?
7.
Drake is right around 4 or 5 for me. So I know I'm sounding harsh on him, but there are some people that have him like way up at 1, way up at like that's just too much for me. So I got him down at like 4 or 5.
I have Burks at 7.
Okay, and I have him.
Burks will be around 7 for me. I would think also.
Like going in like dry with like just on the film alone.
Come on, man.
It's gonna be.
That was not an accident.
That was not
an accident.
Like I would take Treylon Burks right now, probably 2 overall. Like that's where I would.
You
take
never
it.
stuff the box
of the receivers.
Yeah,
of the receivers. Okay,
but no, of the receivers. Yeah, I'm taking Kenneth Walker probably 2
Hall.
overall.
Yeah.
Breece Hall 1. Talking about a tier of his own, it's Breece Hall for me. Like Breece Hall at 1.
Yeah.
anyway you want to go, Kenneth Walker or Garrett Wilson at 2 or 3 in that order. And then it's just kind of like, I'd probably take Treylon Burks, but if I was in another rookie draft with the same pick at 4, then I would take Jameson Williams or Drake London. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like I would never.
So they're all really, really close for you.
I would never take. I'm not set on any of these guys in stone in that position. I would literally, if I had 3 rookie drafts at pick 4, I would try to get a share of every single one of them because they all offered upside in different ways, right?
Sure.
You know, like the touchdowns with Drake London in the end zone and being a good possession receiver. Treylon Burks putting the ball in his hands and just producing at a high level week in and out. And then Jameson Williams will be able to take it to the house at any single moment. So we're going to talk about him in a moment. So let's move on to our next wide receiver. We're going to talk about Chris Olave, wide receiver out of Ohio State University, 6 foot, 187 pounds, going to be 22 years old in 2 months at kickoff. Ran a 4.39 40 at the NFL Combine, had a 32-inch vertical, 124-inch broad jump. Real productive player at Ohio State, real consistent, never topped 1,000 yards, but was real consistent there. Now, I'm going to start off with a negative with Chris Olave at the top because this is his biggest hang-up. It's my biggest thing. It's hard for me to get over this. It's just his run after the catch ability. I mean, 3.8 yards average. I think I saw a stat coming out of Columbus Radio. This is like a month ago, but it said he had 0 broken tackles in 2021. Like 0.
It doesn't shock me watching Ohio State games and then going back and reviewing the film. You really get to zone in on these players, and it's catch the ball, he gets tackled. I mean, that's what he does. Either that or he scampers out of bounds real quick to avoid a hit.
Avoids contact and gets down.
Yep, gets down, avoids contact. That's Olave in a nutshell. He offers literally nothing unless there's wide open space ahead of him.
Whatever.
After the catch.
He needs green to run. So, some good things about Olave is obviously he's really fast. He's really polished. Coming out, he went back for his senior year at Ohio State.
He's a smooth athlete.
Super smooth, man. Played all 3 spots at Ohio State, the Z, the X, the slot. Gets off the line really, really well with some really good bursts. Tracks the ball really well with good body control to go up and get the ball. Sure hands. I mean, he only had 7 career drops altogether. His separation, he consistently gets separation because he's such a savvy route runner, so he's able to actually get separation to make the catch. You mentioned very smooth runner. Works the deep ball really, really well. Uses his speed, his 4.39 speed. So this is a guy who can get separation, get open. But like you said, that is it.
He doesn't like when DBs get physical with him.
Totally redirect him.
Yep. He's going to struggle, I think, at the NFL. Against those kind of press man. Anyone that's going to press him, he's going to have a hard time if they get their hands on him. The thing about Olave is, he's going to keep coming back, though. Even if a guy beats him and they reroute him on a few routes, he's still going to be there, and he continues to keep fighting. So that's like initially I was like, Olave's not going to be all that great. Kind of just watching Ohio State games. Then I watched some of the film. You see the 4.39. Actually, let me go back. From the combine, I see a 4.39, and my eyes kind of widen there because I didn't think he was that fast. Watching him on film, he doesn't look like he's moving that fast.
I think it's deceiving.
He's a glider.
He is a glider, and he's so smooth that you don't realize he's moving that fast. But he's going to keep coming, and then that is something that I ended up liking by the end of it. That he's going to keep coming at the defense, and eventually he's going to crack off, and he's going to get open deep, and he's going to win on a big play. I don't know how that's going to translate to the NFL week in and week out for fantasy relevance for everyone. Like, is he going to be one of these guys that when he breaks off a big couple of plays, he has a great week? Or, is he going to land in one of these awesome offenses that just features the pass so much that he can still be relevant week in and week out? I think landing spot for Chris Olave is going to be huge for me. And as far as his fantasy relevance, because I think he's a good player. I think there's just some questions as to whether or not he's going to have consistent fantasy production based on where he ends up going.
He's not a tough guy at all. Like
he's
just he plays soft. He plays like
I mean. He needs somebody.
He has one of my
he's
lowest,
a leg lamp in A Christmas Story. He's fragile.
He has one of the lowest physicality scores in the class for me. Yep. There's only a couple guys that have a lower score than him. I was actually pleasantly surprised with his release off the line. You're right, Matt. I noticed that he would get bumped in his routes sometimes, and that would get to him. But off the line, he actually did really well, and I think a lot of that goes back to Brian Hartline. This guy was really, really well coached up, And you can see that over and over again because he's constantly making the smart plays. You can tell he's a very intelligent receiver while he's out there. And one of the things that I noticed more out of Olave, almost more than any other player, there's a couple other players similar, but more than almost any other player is his late hands. And that's something I haven't talked as much about this year as some other years. But one of the things that receivers can do really well, savvy receivers do against defensive backs when it's tight coverage, is as opposed to early getting those hands up and getting ready to make
hey, the ball's coming.
Yeah, just at the last second being able to throw them up and have the concentration to be able to still snag it in. So the late hands that Chris Olave has, I think, are really, really good.
Him and Jameson Williams both did that really well. Actually, like you said, we didn't talk about it a lot, so I put the same note in about Jameson Williams. Like, man, him and those guys that
you know who's better?
Who's that?
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Oh yeah, that guy's phenomenal.
I can't wait to talk about him next
I'm glad
year.
you brought it up now because I was going to bring it up about Jameson Williams. Like, that's such a good trait. It basically keeps the defensive back on their heels.
Right. Yeah, you can't tell when the ball's getting there.
Yes.
So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised because similar to you guys, I'm an Ohio State fan. I watch most, if not all, the games that Ohio State plays, and I always liked Chris Olave, but I never saw him as this incredible NFL receiver. But I truly believe if he ends up being a slot receiver, I think that's where he's going to be best. He could be put on the outside. I think he'll be fine. Like I said, I think his release is okay. But I think when you give him more space to operate, that's when he's really at his best. And typically you get more space and more room from the slot position.
Well, you're off the line typically as well. So, you get a free release.
Yep. So he ended up coming in as my 5th rated receiver. My personal score for him was a 77.5. So he's right behind Jahan Dotson and just ahead of a guy that we're going to be talking about next show.
Yeah, and what's funny is I think we all kind of went I was kind of smash talking Chris Olave going into this, just from watching all his games at Ohio State, going, man, I just don't know if that's the kind of player I want on my Dynasty
Here's
team.
the deal. He was the 3rd best wide receiver on the team, maybe 4th as far as talent. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But he was starting for the past 3 years, and he always did well. And
Consistently good player.
Absolutely.
I think if you find, draft capital, which will be a 1st-round pick, on the right team with Pepper Target, just offers upside. So that upside alone, a guy that could probably, he's a player that can average 13 to 14 points per game. He can average that. Yeah. So that was enough to move him all the way up into my rankings. When I thought I'd have him right around wide receiver 9, 10, right around there, he'd be the guy where everybody else was he was like Jalen Reagor, where everybody else loved him, but I was just I don't know, Yeah. So for me, his potential for fantasy football production and the way he could separate kind of moved him up a little bit. They kind of like a guy like Calvin Ridley and Amari Cooper, the way they'll separate. And this guy's like Hunter Renfrow last year was a wide receiver 1, a top 10 fantasy receiver because of his route running and his savvy to get open.
He's super tough though too. Hunter Renfrow,
much fair, but you know what I mean. Separation's key. Yeah, route run's key. Is. If you can get open, you're going to catch a football. If you catch a football, I just got 2 points.
I will say, and we talked about this before the show as well. Compared to some of the other players in this class, Chris Olave does have a lower ceiling,
yes.
I think, than some of the other players that were going to be ranked around him. But I think he has a much higher floor than some of the other guys too. So I think he's pretty safe, but I don't think he will ever be a wide receiver 1 for fantasy football.
Ever. And I think he's a very safe, his floor is wide receiver 3, right? He's going to be a consistent wide receiver 3. Maybe it's wide receiver 25, or maybe it's wide receiver 36. But he's going to be in that range. So if you draft him, you're going to be able to start him. Yeah. Usually on a week-in, week-out basis. You're probably able to start him pretty quickly because, the seniors that come in, they could contribute right away. But at the same time, it's man, do I want the upside? He's the kind of player I bet after NFL draft, I could be ooh, George Pickens went here. I could pick him a little bit higher. Oh, the Jahan Dotson's in Green Bay or Kansas City. Sorry, Chris Olave. You know what I mean?
Yep. I could see him sliding down my ranks a bit. Yeah.
But at the same time, if he goes to Kansas City and he could be the guy that Pat Mahomes just feeds the football to, okay, I can live with that too. I'll hold him right where he is. Jared, you got anything to comment on Chris Olave?
He's my wide receiver 6 right now, and I agree. I was actually going to say I don't think he offers a high ceiling, but I think he can come in and produce right away. I don't think there's going to be much getting used to the NFL with him because he's fantastic at the line of scrimmage. He's always open. I mark down. He creates a ton of separation within his routes. So I think going somewhere like Green Bay would be perfect because they need someone to come in and play right away, and pairing up with a quarterback that's extremely accurate with Chris Olave would be perfect because he's not a guy that you're gonna like throw the ball up to or in an area like Garrett Wilson. He's gonna contort his body and make a contested catch. Like he's gonna burn you off the line of scrimmage. Gonna make a nice little quick move with his speed, and he's gonna be open with some separation there. That's how he wins.
In my note for leaping ability, I wrote NA. Just not, it's not available.
I wrote jump balls aren't his thing. And then followed up that one, but I won't say that. That's from a source.
Right.
We won't say that source, what he said about him. Not good.
No.
High level source said it's not good. But yeah, I wrote jump balls just aren't his thing.
I got him
buddy.
just behind Skyy Moore.
Okay, I have him just ahead of Skyy Moore.
Okay, I like Skyy Moore because I think he gives you a lot more in terms of after the catch or, just giving him the ball and do things.
Right. Well, speaking of that, sky's the limit. Next wide receiver we're talking about is Skyy Moore, wide receiver
I thought he
out
was next show for some reason.
of Western Michigan.
Yeah, he is next show, actually.
No, he's not.
Oh, he's not?
No, he's after Chris Olave.
Yep.
Okay.
Look at that.
Right after Chris Olave.
Go team.
Go
whatever.
Team. Go team.
Skyy Moore,
Matt
wide
and Rich.
receiver, Western Michigan, 5'10", 195 pounds, will be 21 years old in 11 months when kickoff. Somebody that really took off after Dwayne Eskridge left and he got drafted by Seattle there. Ran a 4.4 140 at the combine, 34.5-inch vertical, 125-inch broad jump, a 7.13 three-cone, a 4.32 20-yard shuttle, which wasn't
Not great.
Not
Yep.
great, honestly.
I think he moves better than that, though, in real life.
Played inside and outside, 39% career in the slot. Really good hands. Only had 4 drops on 256 targets.
You see those mitts he's got?
Biggest hands in the class. He had the biggest hands.
Bigger than the
in class.
5XL Treylon Burks.
Yeah.
Who's only 9 7/8 or 7.
Yeah, that was
9
exaggerated.
3/4.
5'10", 195 pounds. Biggest hands in the class. He was actually the highest graded receiver by Pro Football Focus in 2021. 0.1 points ahead of Jackson Smith and Jigba. This is a guy, again, very good. This is a guy that's really good, very good at getting off the line. So it's really hard to kind of press him. Really good hands because they're just too big, 10.25 inches. 31-inch arms are nice too. So this guy at 5'10" has the wingspan and hands of somebody that's like 6'3". Like really. So he's got that going for him. And he tracks the ball really well. When you put the ball in his hands, he makes things happen. 26 broken tackles, tied for the most in FBF. So in 21, he averaged more than 2 broken tackles per game, only 3 drops on 125 targets in 21, plays tough, not afraid to go over a middle. This is a guy who's just a very solid football player.
You got me. Sorry, you caught me with it. This is the guy. He's a very impressive, small school prospect. I love his burst and in and out of breaks, especially. That's really where I think he gains his separation and kind of separates himself from a lot of players in this particular draft. So I think there's, obviously he's a good route runner, but I think he's got room to grow there as well.
A lot of room to grow.
But he still gets separation. He can make some special things happen, down the field, anywhere on the field, really. And after the catch, like you had mentioned, he's good with the ball in his hands as well. So there's not a lot that Skyy Moore can't do. Obviously, he played in the slot and out wide there at Western Michigan. So I think he's one of these versatile guys. He's like one of these. He's not a big wide receiver. He's not a small wide receiver. He's kind of in between and kind of go inside and out and play either one of those positions kind of seamlessly. And I really like him. He's probably going to end up being in that same tier with Chris Olave, right around there for me as well. I have Drake London, Olave, Skyy Moore. They're all kind of top end of my third tier, real close to the bottom of my second tier. And I would expect that he's probably going to be one of these surprise picks in like the second round of the NFL draft. As far as what I see on tape, anyway, that's where I'm seeing him anyway.
I would be very surprised if he wasn't. I've even heard rumor that there might be some teams interested in the first round.
Yeah.
I don't think that'll happen.
That's not happening.
I think he's a second round guy, but he's extremely talented. A lot of times when there starts to become this big buzz around a player, especially if it's like a small school guy. Usually I like to go in and dispel why people are crazy.
Is he the next Anthony Miller?
Right.
Anthony Miller was even, he went to Memphis, but I think a similar profile on Anthony Miller as a guy like Skyy Moore, and we all know what happened to Anthony Miller.
Those are like when it comes to Skyy Moore and why he's a little bit down in my top 12, because those are some of my concerns. Like his really good games came against some like really bad defenses. Like in Western at Western Michigan, he played a lot of like bad teams. Like when he played a good team like Michigan, he had 2 catches for 22 yards.
Yep.
So that's my biggest concern off the gate. It's just like, okay, did he produce at a high level? And like you mentioned, like Anthony Miller. I loved Anthony Miller because I loved his tape at Memphis, and then it just never translated to the next level. And that's somewhat of a good. Because again, I agree the tape looks good, but when I look back at his stat line, I'm like, wow, he had all his big games came against these terrible teams.
Well, he had 11 for 124 and a touchdown against Pitt. So
I absolutely love watching tape against Pitt because they're going to be up there pressing people. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like their defensive style. I mean, from watching wide receiver film, when I see that Pitt, whoever I'm watching played Pitt, I'm like, all right, good. I'm going to get like a good look at these guys against press coverage.
And he excels. Skyy Moore excels.
He did great against.
He's very good for press. He gets up the line very well. So that's like, to me, one of his best attributes is the way he gets up the line, how you can't press him, which is great.
Which is huge for the next level.
Highest release grade for me in the class.
He tied for the highest with me as well.
And that makes total sense to me. The way he gets up, that makes total sense to me.
Yep. So yeah, I'm a big fan of his. There wasn't anything where I was overly concerned in his game. I think he could be a little more physical in his routes. There would be sometimes he got pushed a little bit, but even there, it wasn't anything that was like a red flag for me. He's good after the catch. He has good game speed. I mean, really, there's no obvious holes in his game.
Yeah, that's why I mean, it's hard for me to, I guess, quantify and say exactly how, exactly what I see, because everything is good. There are some things that I think he excels
really, really good,
that he's really, really good in, but there's not a lot to discuss because there's not a lot to pick apart about this guy.
Right.
It really is.
You're nitpicking, like you said, he could fine tune his route run a little bit more. That could be a little bit better. But I mean, that's almost every rookie coming to the NFL.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's going to end up being like a second round draft pick in the NFL, and it's deserving. Like he does a lot of good things.
The only part lacking in his game is like he doesn't have like that. He's not the type of wide receiver that's just going to go up and like win contested balls.
No.
You're going to throw balls to. That's not the type of
that
receiver.
kind of shocked me. I had that in my notes too. Like I was like, for how long his arms out, his catch radius didn't seem that big in college.
He's not afraid to do it though. You're never gonna throw him jump balls. Like that's just not his game. But I saw a couple instances of him going up and getting the ball and coming down with it. I mean, it's in a contested catch sort of situation. And so I mean, it's in his repertoire to at least, hey, that's my ball, I'm going to go get it. You're never ever going to jump ball him. Kind of like throw jump balls to him.
Built like a running back, and he plays like a running back when he catches the ball. Like he's pretty physical, and he'll make you miss, and he has really good contact balance too.
He does.
So I love his ability after the catch. I put down that he's an absolute playmaker with the ball in his hands. He graded out from like a yards after catch, game speed, burst, quickness, like all very high. So I think that's what really led to him coming up my nerd score a lot. But then from like an overall wide receiver standpoint, he runs good routes. I didn't see him drop many balls either.
No.
So yeah, I really.
He only had 3 drops in all of 2021.
Yeah,
125 targets.
I think Skyy Moore he's freaking good, man. I like him a lot.
Yeah. I like him too. He's in that third tier for me because he's a solid player.
Small school, it's tough.
Small school, and it's somewhat of it holds me back just a little bit.
Was he in any of the bowls? Was he in the Senior Bowl or Shrine Bowl or anything?
No, not the Senior Bowl.
Too young.
Is he only a junior? Oh,
he's only a junior.
He'll be 21,
which is impressive for a small school guy to be able to come out early like that. You don't normally see that from the small school guys,
and to be ranked high. But Anthony Miller was a second round pick.
I know
but he was a senior, wasn't he?
That's what scares me.
Oh man,
they profile very similarly. I don't know. Anthony Miller also had huge hands.
Anthony Miller was also a better route runner. If I remember correctly.
I think Skyy Moore's a little better after the catch.
Yeah, he is.
That's definitely fair too. But yeah, you're right. He did have like the biggest hands in the combo. Oh yeah. Oh, that is. Oh, okay.
It was another thing. I was like, okay.
I get what you're laying down now. Yeah. So it's that stuff. That lingers, right? Yeah. Like when you're making Dynasty and you play Dynasty for a while, you start seeing some of these tendencies, and like you mentioned about Drake London, you see like all these other contested catch players like Kelvin Harmons and guys like those that have just continually.
JJ.
Yeah, JJ or Sergio Whiteside. These guys that end up being first round Dynasty rookie picks and high NFL draft picks in the second round. Like they fail more than they win for the most part, like a 90% fail rate, like that high. So when you see, and it's simple to say like, oh, well, he produced here. It doesn't matter if he's small school. I mean, Joe Flacco went to Delaware, things like that. You know, Steve McNair went to Alcorn State. Okay, first, I'm not even quarterbacks, but at the same time,
Antonio Brown literally went to Western Michigan.
Yeah.
Antonio Brown went to Western Michigan, but we all know he has a little off the field issues. So
Kicked my ass in college.
yeah. Oh, did you play against him?
Yeah, we played against them.
He destroyed you?
They destroyed us. Yeah.
Well, he's Antonio Brown, one of the greatest receivers of all time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that I know it sounds like you're nitpicking, but for me, that's enough to move him down a little bit over some of these other guys. For me personally, but a guy who offers great value there in the back half of your first round.
Yep. That's definitely where he's going to be.
All right, Garrett, you got anything for us to dive in here before we go on to the next player?
Oh yeah, why don't we talk about our friends over at PredictionStrike.com. Yes, PredictionStrike.com. We've been talking about them forever, but it's because they're so fantastic. And what we get to do over here at Dynasty Nerds, and we get to talk about all of these players. And you have this perfect opportunity to be able to get in there and get to look at these players now and say like, oh, their cost right now is this. Their cost right now is that. And we'll know all this after the NFL draft, but you get to go in there, see all of that kind of stuff, and then get to acquire these players, buy, sell, trade shares. Actually, not really trade, but buy, sell shares of players just like you would the stock market. Best of all, with the promo code Dynasty, you can get a free share of a player with your first deposit of $20 or more. That's right, a free share with the promo code Dynasty at PredictionStrike.com.
You guys changed the sheet, didn't you?
No,
You
I
guys
did not.
changed the sheet.
No, I went back. I had mine in order correct, and I just went back and looked. And Skyy Moore is supposed to be on the next show.
That's what I thought too, but I didn't even go back and look.
But it doesn't
change the
matter.
sheet. There's
Doesn't
no way
matter.
because I put mine.
No,
Literally, when
no.
you send the sheet
I did
over,
not
I went
change
through
the
and put
sheet.
every name
You're
in
wrong.
order and all their combine results in
too.
order.
Wait, let me look. I'll look right now. I'll look right now.
It was updated 6 days ago.
Okay.
Somebody
So you changed
updated it. Somebody updated
There's no
it.
way that me. Do you have Khalil Shakir next?
I sure do.
Okay, so
Me
then
too.
you guys change the sheet.
Nope.
Somebody changed the
Switched
sheet.
David
No, yeah.
Bell and Skyy Moore.
Yeah,
said the sheet.
David Bell's on show 3,
You sent the show,
right?
and I literally took every player and put them in my word here, and then I went through and put all their combine and weights and statistics in there in order, like in at the very first day.
The sheet
before show.
the sheet was changed because we took off a guy at the end.
You, sir, are a liar.
This is the least significant thing we've ever fought about.
Yeah. Moving on.
Next player,
Moving on.
Khalil Shakir, wide receiver, Boise State, 6 foot, 196 pounds, will be 22 years old in 7 months when he enters the NFL at kickoff season. He played 4 seasons, had 317 targets, 5 pass attempts, 71 carries, and 31 returns. Ran a 4.43 40-yard dash, 34.5-inch vertical, 124-inch broad jump, a 7.28 3-cone, and a 4.21 20-yard shuttle.
Can I say something? Can I say something
you
before
say
we move on? I absolutely hate the blue turf at Boise State. Go ahead. Just hate it. Move on.
That was the one thing you had to
I
say?
had to say it because I was looking at it again today.
You're
And
no fun.
I hate it.
I love it.
Oh my God.
I'm not a big fan.
Who was I watching the other day that they had red turf? There's somebody that had red turf.
Yeah. I don't know.
I just
Oh, it was when I was watching Isaiah Weston against like Eastern Washington.
listen.
or something
The
like that.
reason I hate it is because there's times when there's blue turf and they're all in blue, and I can
It's
barely.
an advantage.
It's
do
not
it.
an advantage
They do
for
it on
me
purpose.
trying
Yeah.
to watch film,
Who's
and I can barely see the guys.
who was a good dynasty prospect at running back to propose at the end of the game?
Oh, from Boise State.
Oh man.
He was like a decent prospect that never did nothing whatsoever.
I know. I'm trying to remember who all went there. Doug Martin went there. J.J. went there, but it wasn't either of those two guys.
No.
No. Proposed in the end after the bowl game.
Yeah.
I remember that happening, but yeah, I can't think of-
McNichols went there, didn't he?
That's
He
not
might
Jeremy,
have.
it's not Jeremy McNichols.
Was that the same game where they did the Statue of Liberty against Oklahoma?
I think that's how they won. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're talking about Khalil Shakir out of Boise State, different player. This is somebody who has really good contact balance, really good vision, good run after the catch. Is when this guy gets the ball.
Is he a running back?
Ian
goes.
Johnson.
Ian Johnson, that's the guy. Khalil, he plays tough. Not afraid of contact. Good route runner. Really good in that intermediate area, finding the soft spot in the zone. I thought that's where he played best. Like I didn't like him up front. I didn't like him deep. I really liked him in that right in the middle. Like I thought he did a really good job finding the soft
Intermediate route
spot.
runner?
Yeah, in the zone. I thought that's where he did best.
I don't know that he has like the high ends. I know he ran a 4.40 4.3, but I don't think he has like the high end speed to get deep.
Yeah,
I
don't
totally
see it on
agree
tape
that he's an underneath and intermediate guy, and that's kind
Not
of
even speed. Like he
where he's
didn't.
capped.
Like he didn't track the ball well. Like
What?
I didn't think he tracked the ball well.
I thought he did a pretty good job.
I
reaching
think that's
out
one of
and-
his best attributes.
Oh, well, I guess I must have
Yeah, I
watched
think
something
I
else.
agree.
I thought he did pretty good in that
That's
aspect.
fair. Yeah.
All right, well, man,
I'm a Shakir truther though, so I'll let you
That's
guys
fine.
be like mediocre on him, and I'll give the love.
I thought he got in and out of his breaks really well. I thought he ran really hard with the ball in his hands.
I think he's got a little bit of wiggle too. Not a ton of wiggle in the
Definitely has
open field,
wiggle.
but he's got some wiggle in the open field also.
Garrett likes him a lot. Look at
Yeah,
that.
look at him. He's
I
got
do.
some. He's got some
he does.
shake,
Yeah,
shake,
he's got
shake.
wiggle.
Before I get to some of my cons, like my number one thing about him was like I came away, I was like, this guy's just a solid overall receiver that's going to really be solid on an NFL team. Look, I don't know how his dynasty value really gets there.
I think he'd be a starting slot.
Yeah,
He could be a starting slot. I think he's quarterback friendly, and that's how I would.
he's very
describe
solid,
him.
is what I
Yeah.
wrote. Because I mean, his arms are 29 inches, so he doesn't have a big wingspan. He's got a smaller catch radius. I thought his separation was just okay. A couple body catches, a little bit more than I liked with those body catches I saw on film. Drops. He had 10 drops in 2021. That was somewhat of a concern as well, which probably doesn't attribute some of his body catching. But he did have 10 drops. So I didn't like that. Even though I did to be fair, I made him make some great catches as well.
Right.
But 10 drops
spectacular,
was
yeah.
somewhat of a concern. I understand why Garrett likes this guy a lot, because you get the ball in his hands and he makes things happen, right? Like he's just a good football. He's a really good football player. I don't know if it translates to being a really good dynasty fantasy football player. Like almost like one of those bottom roster guys that you have, like he's your wide receiver 8 that you never cut. That's always there. And he's like, he's ready.
I hate to make like this.
opportunity.
I hate to
He's
make
there.
this like lazy kind of Boise State to Boise State. Is he like Cedric Wilson, where like if he gets an opportunity to be like the number 2 guy on like any given week, he can produce, but the chances of him like actually landing a number 2 job in the NFL week in and week out are kind of slim. So you're kind of like it's just you've seen just enough glimpses of him to kind of keep him on your roster and not cut him.
When he's your number 2 in the NFL, that team is looking for a number 2.
Right.
Yeah, I see that. Like, given the opportunity, he will produce. I don't think he'll ever be written in as like this is our wide receiver too.
And you know, like that's like you don't want us to talk bad about guys because he's in the NFL and he's making a living and he's doing good things. But from fantasy football perspective,
100%.
it is hard to rely on somebody where that's kind of if that's how you see him.
And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, he's a very solid receiver. Should play at the next level. Could be the third wide receiver in a starting sets. Like, I could totally see that. But from a dynasty aspect, that's where it's kind of trying to get over the hump. He falls in that tier of like the 4th tier for me. And that 4th tier is just whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, we disagree pretty far on this one, and it doesn't surprise me a ton because I liked Amon-Ra more than you guys last year as well.
oh,
And Amon-Ra, he's a very similar.
J.J. Arcega Whiteside too. Jalen
Okay.
Reagor too.
Jonathan Taylor too.
He's so bust up on my roster. I like Justin Herbert more than anybody in the community.
You done?
Yeah.
All right. So he's a very similar style player.
Hold on.
To Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Justin Jefferson.
Oh, in your face.
You just got dunked on.
He's like Kyrie Irving in the first quarter
Khalil
versus the
Shakir will
Cavs.
never get the respect he deserves.
Shakira.
They just keep talking about other people. It's
Yeah,
like-
that has nothing to do with this.
We just bust out the ball. It's not a surprise because I like Amon-Ra St. Brown more than you guys.
pipe down.
He's a very
I like
similar
Aaron Jones way more than
style.
Jamal Williams.
What?
I like Aaron Jones way more than Jamal Williams.
Rich, shut up.
Would you let him
I'm
talk?
sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Let's do this together.
That's right. I'm starving over here.
I know.
I only have so many words to give, Rich.
Your hand's so bony to run out of energy.
So
Garrett is on 6 days of fasting right now.
it's true.
That is faith.
It's true. I don't even know that I'm in the podcast studio. I could be at home for all I know.
All right,
I'm not
so
sure.
why do you like Shakir so much?
Yeah.
No.
Now, no interruptions. Go on your rant.
He has not got this crazy upside that I think a lot of people want in receivers. A lot of times you're looking for the fastest, the biggest, the strongest. That's not his game, but this is one of the most polished wide receivers that we have in the class. He's good off the line. He has the most suddenness out of any receiver that I've seen in this class. The ability to be able to stop, start, change direction, and in his, specifically in his breaks in his route. As I watched it, what?
Calvin Austin.
Calvin Austin's a very good one as well. I'll give you that, but very different size.
Agree. I know.
Both of those little guys don't really.
I was going to respond to your tweet. With
they're very different.
No, I'll give you that. Calvin Austin, fantastic there, but
he's got 4 inches on him.
but he's incredibly sudden. He has made some spectacular catches. Never seems to be out of control. Tracks the ball, I think, fantastically. And even though, you mentioned he ran the 4.3 in the class, but I only have him for a 6.5, which is like a hair above average for game speed.
It was a 4.43, not a 4.3.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I meant. I probably said that backwards. But so even though that's above average for timed speed,
sure.
I don't think he's much above average on field speed. So I only gave him a 6.5 there, but I gave him an 8.5 on quickness. And I think that's where he's going to win, is just constantly being quick. He's going to get to the ball. He's going to be in the right spot. He's going to know what to do at all times. And that's a lot of what Amon-Ra did well before. He was a smart receiver. He was always in the right spot. He was quick. He ran good routes. So I think they can win in a very similar manner.
I think Matt, you hit it on the head though. Like Amon found himself in a spot to be the guy peppered with targets, and he produced.
He did. I think laterally, I think he is explosive laterally, and I can see what you're saying. I don't necessarily agree that he is the most explosive. I think Skyy Moore, obviously we've mentioned a couple of
Skyy's very, very much so up there as well. But I thought for as far as creating at separation with suddenness in his routes, he was incredible for me in that.
I mean, I think even, a guy that we have a very small sample size, George Pickens, is another guy that I really like his suddenness out of breaks.
Really?
And I would go ahead and say that he might be kind of up there as well.
And Kyle Phillips.
Okay.
What'd you say?
Nothing.
He said Kyle
Phillips running in sand or mud or whatever.
I'll let George Pickens.
I'm just kidding. I haven't had a chance to look at Kyle Phillips again because I was just too swamped trying to get ready for this, but I will before the draft.
I have him and Pickens back to back, so I mean they're very close for me graded in this class. But
Okay.
I like Shakir too.
I'll end up being one of the highest guys on Shakir, and I'm okay with that. I kind of knew that going in. He ended up with a 75.63. So it would go at this point for me, Treylon Burks, Christian Watson, Khalil Shakir, and then George Pickens.
He's going to be right at the top of my 4th tier. So he'll
Yeah.
and I did write in here before the show, like I mentioned it to you guys, but I wrote in here like the way that I see him being fantasy relevant is if he's eating breakfast with the quarterback, the starting quarterback.
So he has to be Cooper Kupp.
He's got to be like Cooper Kupp, I think, to be fantasy relevant because I do think he's going to excel in short to intermediate stuff, which means for fantasy purposes, he's going to have to get a lot of targets. So if he's in tight with whoever the starting quarterback is, I think that's kind of his way, his avenue to become fantasy relevant for me.
Mm-hmm.
And while he is really good at the intermediate routes and being a slot receiver, he is really good at the catch point too and adjusting his body and just quarterback being able to throw it in the area and he trusts that he's going to be able to make a play on the ball, which I really like with him and his size. He's got good size for a slot receiver too.
6'1", 195 pounds or something. Right
Makes
around
plays
there.
after the catch too. So I think he's a starting slot wide receiver in the NFL. I have him in that 4th tier as well. I have him right around David Bell, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson in that area.
The only player in this class that I saw that might have had more exciting catches, because Shakir had some incredible catches where falling backwards, one hand, like ridiculous ones, was Jahan Dotson. Those two, they're like, if you were to just like watch highlights of their catches, those would be two of the most fun guys in the class to watch.
And Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, Garrett Wilson had some crazy ones too.
Okay.
You guys always have to add another one when I say it. Just say okay.
No,
all
I
right?
gotta correct you.
No, but you're wrong. Those are the two best.
We'll find out. It's the greatest part about Dynasty is when people argue with me on Twitter. I'm like, I always end the same way. I was like, well, I guess we'll find out. You know?
We'll see.
We'll see. That's like an ongoing,
Nostradamus. You know what I mean? Like,
it's an
just-
ongoing thing in my friends' fantasy, like in our home league. It's just, we'll see.
Yeah. People, I don't argue on Twitter. When people like disagree with my opinion, other people, I give my opinion, they give theirs. I'm like, cool. Well, I always say agree to disagree,
Right.
but we'll find out who's right soon enough.
It's a fun thing about fake football.
And the funny part is, like 6 months later, you completely forget that conversation.
6 months,
No-
6 days later,
yeah.
I forget. That's my biggest problem.
Exactly.
Matt and I
He's
made
like, I'll
50
come back
bets.
to you
I
in a
can't remember
year.
a single one. I'm the worst when it comes to remembering stuff like that. So
And the good news is neither can I. So they just fade away.
But it's just funny,
happened.
like, I'll see you this time next year. Then I never see them next time. So either I was right or they forgot and we both forgot.
I don't even know what time it is to even meet you here in the sixth. We'll see you later, buddy. But let's move on to another player. Romeo Doubs, wide receiver out of Nevada. 6'2", 201 pounds. That's good measurables. 22 years old in 4 months when the season kicks off. Coming off a year, he had 80 catches, 1,109 yards, and 11 touchdowns. Didn't compete at the combine. Coming off back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Lined up on the outside 85% of the time. This is a guy who saw at least 75 targets all 4 seasons he played. So he was like heavily involved. He averaged 17.8 yards per catch in 2021, so it kind of showed like his big play ability. Like he was constantly making the big plays with the speed. Tracked the ball really hands, played tough, good hands, not afraid to go over the middle, worked the sideline. Romeo Doubs to me kind of reminded me of Kelvin Harmon, and I like Kelvin Harmon a lot, and we know how that worked out.
No, I guess I could see that. Just bigger bodied guy, right?
Yeah.
He's so much faster though than Kelvin.
Oh,
He
definitely
is
much faster than Kelvin Harmon.
Yeah, he is.
No, he worked the sideline like that really well, and I liked what I saw there. And I'm like, ooh. And it kept going, well,
Kelvin Harmon
worked
is
the
more of a
sideline.
jump ball guy. I think Romeo Doubs is more stretch the field, take the top off the defense type guy.
But I mean, yeah, he's a go in. He's a kind of a go. His routes are really limited. Like he is a limited route tree. He's a north south kind of guy. That's how he wins. And it kind of showed because like when he would run routes, like he was really slow getting in and out of his breaks. A little tight hip for me, which kind of gave him trouble like getting separation when he was actually not running like those go routes. His run after the catch ability was just okay for me. Didn't get off the line that great for me. To me, it just looks like he was like somebody that's a really good college receiver that will be just an okay NFL receiver, like a wide receiver 4 on a team.
I didn't, and maybe I just didn't watch the right games or something. I didn't see him at the line very much. I didn't have like a real definitive grade on that one. So I can't really comment on that. I think I'm with you on the routes. I think he's got a long way to go there. I think he was a bit limited. I think he's got skills that translate to somebody that could be better at route running though. If he put in the time.
I wish I had marked it because I agree wholeheartedly on this, because there were some routes that I saw that I was like, oh, actually that was a nice route. But there were roughly 12 plays in a row where it was either a seam or a short cross. Like that was it. Yeah. Like 12 plays in a row of one of those 2 routes. And I was like, wow. Like it's the same thing over and over and over.
That means I definitely watched that game because that's where I get to them. Like this guy's like just a north-south guy.
Yes, it was like seam, short cross, seam, short cross. Seam, like literally like 12 plays in a row. I was counting. It was wild. But it's funny looking at my nerd score for him because it almost looks like somebody that like didn't really know what to do because, and maybe I didn't, but it's like 6, 7, 6, 7. It's like average, slightly above average, slightly, like I didn't have anything where I was like, oh, that was terrible.
I mean, he's a former,
but I didn't have anything that I was like, oh, that was really good.
He's a former track guy, right? So there's some movements I think that are going to look naturally explosive and really excellent, and there's some of that track stuff that's maybe not going to translate.
He was a little upright for me.
Yeah.
I wanted him to sink his steps a little bit more in his routes, but he did have good game speed. I think he did have decent burst, but there just wasn't as much like quickness to go with it.
When you run that fast with that size, 6'2", 200 pounds, like that just at the college level, that wins.
There are certain guys that are football players that run track to get speed, and then there are track guys who play football because they're fast, and then they have got a long way to go. And I think he was one of those players. I think he's come a long way. I think he still has a long way to go. I guess to finish his journey there.
Well, I'm interested to hear what Jared has to say because Jared mentioned his name just minutes ago, saying this guy's in a tier here with Romeo Doubs. So it sounds like you kind of like him in your 4th tier.
Yeah, I think he offers a pretty good ceiling. I mean, at 6'2", 200 pounds, I mean, he's a physical specimen on the field, and you see it watching his game tape. And I think he's very explosive, and he takes the top off the defense very well. I think I have his game speed at like an 8.5 and his burst at like an 8.5. So he's just blowing by defenders constantly. Carson Strong's just throwing the ball up to him, and he's making plays, making tough catches down the field.
Carson's Carson Strong is the slowest person I've ever seen in my
Yeah,
entire life.
he has knee issues.
Jeez,
and he came back quick from
man.
surgery this past year to play.
He looked like he was running with ankle weights on or something. Like that was bad, man. Holy cow.
That's definitely a big con on his game. But I actually thought he offered some quickness in his game. Like he throttled down pretty well compared to like what you guys were saying. I thought he did get in and out of his breaks pretty well. So, maybe I need to go back and watch some more tape. I got through 4 games of his, but I think he's probably like an early day 3 pick. That's where I have him.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's upside, and that I have him in my 4th tier as well. He's in there with Shakir as well for me.
Yeah, I think he could be a starting like Z and just blowing the top off, and that's the type of guy he is. From a fantasy standpoint, I don't know where I'm ranking him.
He didn't
yet.
run on the combine, correct?
What was the guy that was on the Jets a few years back?
I'm curious to see what his time speed is.
Oh,
yeah, he looked fast.
Quincy Enunwa. He kind of reminds me of Quincy Enunwa, but
I see that.
just from a size, speed, kind of raw athlete type of.
He does struggle at the line of scrimmage, though. I think he had one of the lowest release grades in this class for me, and he struggled there at the Senior Bowl too. So from a Z that may get pressed at the line, that's troubling to see. So he could improve there.
All right, moving on. Next, Tyquan Thornton, wide receiver out of Baylor, 6'3", 182 pounds. Going to be 22 years old in 1 month when season kicks off. 62 catches, 948 yards, and 10 touchdowns last year. Ran a 4.2840, the fastest of the class. 36.5-inch vertical, 130-inch broad jump. 3.1 yards after the catch. Yuck, worst of the class. I'm going to go with the smallest hands of the class, 8'4". So there's 2 things that he's the worst at. Run after the catch, hand size.
And that was the thing. Watching him on tape is odd because
he's a track guy.
Well, he's really fast and you can see it sometimes. Not most of the time, in my opinion. And definitely not once he gets the ball in his hands, because then he gets tackled immediately. It's like you never see him turn on the jets.
Because he's
with the
a
ball
track guy?
Yeah, possibly. It's very hard for me to figure out. Obviously, Rich has his Baylor bias, where he's never going to draft a wide receiver from Baylor ever again. And I'm sure he wrote it on there.
Tall track guys never succeed, especially from Baylor.
So
after Denzel Mims, I've given up.
Listen,
because I liked him a ton too. So after
I did
Denzel
like
Mims,
Denzel Mims a lot.
I am retired. Josh Gordon's the best thing to ever come out of there, and that was for 1 year, 1 year only. Even that failed. So
he's not in my 4th tier. He's in my 5th tier, guys. And
it's a bad tier, by the way.
It is not a good tier.
Let the viewers and listeners know the 5th tier in this class. Ooh, a lot of brown water.
It's not. It isn't good. Here, you can't teach his speed. If somebody could harness it, maybe they can turn him into something, but I don't see a lot there to work.
Harness what? His route tree sucks. His hands suck. He's super lean. He's not good at contested catches whatsoever, despite being tall.
He's not a refined route runner.
Dude, he couldn't stack his
He has my second lowest grade in the class.
He couldn't stack his defensive backs. His route tree sucks. He's really fast. He's a linear guy. He's literally a track guy at Baylor, and that's what he is.
Yeah.
I could tackle him, and I can't even tackle anything. I'm 42 with a bad back.
I just don't understand how you can have such a low yards after the catch with being a 4.28 guy.
Dude, because he has no way.
How is
he
that
doesn't
possible?
know how to play the game of football. He can't even stack the defensive back. He's not even worth talking about. He's not even on my board.
Yeah, he's
5th tier,
pretty much
not
off
on
my
my
board too.
He's not an NFL football player at all. At all. Sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Thornton. Your son, he's fast. Faster than me, but so is everybody in this room. Just not very good.
Happens.
Moving on to Makai Polk, wide receiver, Mississippi, 6'3", 200 pounds.
Mississippi State.
I wrote the 200 pounds with O's instead of zeros.
Look at you.
Boobies down there. He'll be 21 years old in 1 month kickoff. Had 105 receptions for 1,046 yards and 9 touchdowns, which is the 105, which is school record, which, once we get to his head coach, you'll all understand all this information. Ran a 4.59 40.
He was a transfer from Cal.
He was correct.
Yep, and he was on our Film Nerd show.
He was on our Film Nerd show.
Live breaking down his own tape.
Yep.
Was that
As
after
a
his freshman
freshman
year?
Yep.
Yeah.
He was a converted defensive back. He was recruited as a defensive back, but he was just like so tall that they're like, you should play receiver.
Dude, a 4.5 940 at 195 pounds isn't really 200 pounds isn't that great.
I thought he played a little bit faster than
He
that.
did.
Yeah, I'm not a big 40 guy. I don't care.
I was surprised by that when I watched the film and saw what he actually ran.
Tyquan Thornton, the worst run after the catch in the class. Guess who had the second worst run after the catch? Makai Polk, 3.7 yards.
So this is the Mike Leach air raid offense, kind of replaces the running game with
Mike
passes,
Leach offense.
Sure.
passes to the wide receivers like screen passes, short crossing routes, dump offs to the running back.
Correct.
So that is where the 105 catches came from. Obviously, only averaged 10 yards a catch, which for any kind of wide receiver, that's not very good.
Right.
Good body control. Can go up and get the ball pretty well. Thought I did that pretty well.
Agree.
I thought his hands were pretty solid. There's times where you like go over the middle, like it seemed like he got a little intimidated.
This is another guy that's I think he's stuck on intermediate routes. Personally, I don't think he's a get down the field. I don't think he's fast enough. I think he's faster than his time. I'm not sure he's fast enough to get downfield on
He's not
defensive
explosive
backs.
at all.
That's kind of where I landed with him too. There's not a lot of explosion to the game, so I struggle to kind of figure out where fantasy points are going to come from.
I ended up being, I think I like him a little bit more than you guys, but not a ton. Game speed I had below average. Yards after the catch I think was below average. But where he excelled is I thought he was able to go up and pluck the ball really well. I want him to be more physical, but he can do some contested catches, but he's got good catch radius. I saw him go down and get some catches. I saw him get up high and get some catches. And I think he's also a very intelligent football player because you would see him find the dead spots and zones often. Mm-hmm. He had a really good feel of where the coverage was and how to get open, which I get part of that is like, oh, it's Mike Leach, blah, blah, blah. This was a kid that transferred. So this is all new terminology. This is all new system for you to come in from day one and then be the leading receiver in a very different offense than 95% of the country. That takes some intelligence to be able to figure all that out. So I think he's a smart player that I think could be a solid like end of the bench guy for you. But I don't think that there's ever going to be a point where you feel confident starting him. It's more going to be like, shoot, it's a bye week and I have 2 injured receivers. I need somebody to get me like 5 points.
Yep.
Okay, Makai Polk, I think can get 3 catches for 30 yards.
Funny thing about the hands is I actually use the exact same terminology about plucking. He does a good job plucking the ball. Mm-hmm. And I think he is a good hands catcher. That was one of the positives I had on him as well. So I see you there. I feel you there. I just have a hard time. I think just figuring out how he's going to be fantasy relevant.
Sure.
And that's where I have a hard time.
Makai Polk out of Mississippi
State.
So that's it. That's going to end
I
our
had to throw it in there.
last free show here on the Rookie Wide Receivers. Now we're going to jump into our final rookie breakdown of the Nerd Herd shows. Now, if you want to join
covering?
the exclusive Nerd Herd, which is the perfect place to take your Dynasty game to the next level, you can do it right now, 15% off with the promo code ROOKIE. And you can find out all the tools as you get ready for your rookie draft, right? Like maybe you've been a little bit hesitant because your rookie draft is right around the corner. We have all the tools that you need to not only help you dominate your rookie draft or put you in the best position to win, but to also let it carry over throughout the regular season as well. The Dynasty GM is built to help you navigate your Dynasty team throughout the year, 365 days. Because listen, this is Dynasty Fantasy Football. There's no days off. Whether you just want to watch a little bit of film in the film room, whether you want to use the trade calculator, whether you want to see your player shares, whether you want to go into my favorite tool on the GM, the League Analyzer, and really see where you stack up against your league mates and where your strengths and where your weaknesses are. The Dynasty GM is going to help you navigate that. You get the Dynasty Nerds this Nerd Score out there.
Yep,
Let's give you good film ratings.
And Jared, we're looking at obviously the running backs are already up. Wide receivers are going up. When
Probably
are we
early next week.
Early next week, so be ready for those.
And I was telling everyone, we don't ever talk about this as well. We haven't talked about this in a while. Is we have an app in the App Store, the Dynasty Nerds Mock Draft app. If you want to get ready for your rookie draft, go to your App Store today, Download the Dynasty Nerds app, and you can mock draft your rookies, whether it be, and you can also do startup mocks. And if say you have, what's nice about our mock draft tool, say you have pick 1, 2, 1, 5, 1, 9, and 2, 6. You can adjust all your picks to make sure that you will be picking exactly where you are in the first round. And it will help you get ready for your rookie draft. And if you download that mock draft tool now, there's some big things coming to in the next couple months. You're going to get a lot more than a mock draft tool. So go ahead and get in our app store, download that boy today, because there's some big upgrades coming to it. You're going to be able to get a lot more than just mock drafting. But another opportunity to, get ready for your rookie draft.
Tell them who we're covering in the next show.
Next show, we're covering Jamison Williams, wide receiver out of Alabama. We're going to cover George Pickens, wide receiver Georgia. David Bell out of Purdue. We're going to cover Jalen Tolbert out of South Alabama. Melton out of Rutgers.
Bo Melton.
Isaiah Weston, Northern Iowa. Dontario Drummond, Ole Miss. Those are receivers coming on the Nerd show. All for the price of a cup of coffee a month. You get everything I just mentioned. All you have to do is use the promo code ROOKIE. You're going to be in there for a price of a cup of coffee a month, and you're going to dominate your rookie draft.
Not Wookie.
But listen, there's no better bragging rights in the world than being your Dynasty Fantasy Football Championship. When you win your Dynasty League, you hold it over your league mates forever. Like, oh, I whooped your ass this week. Well, I beat you in 2006. Remember that? I was a Dynasty Fantasy Football Championship. You put some respect on my name.
Mm-hmm.
Champs.
See you next week talking quarterbacks and tight ends.
Adios.